Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We will start the evening with an invocation by Reverend Donald Garant, pastor of Christ Our Savior United Methodist Church, and Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Irvin. Please join me.
I invite you to pray. Almighty God, as we gather together to consider the plans for our community, we ask for your help. We invite you, O Lord, to be present with us in this chamber and to guide this meeting. As we consider what is the best future for our community, we ask for your wisdom to guide our discussion and decision-making. As persons rise to speak the truth as they see it, grant that we may be advocates without becoming adversaries. O God, help us to reason together as fellow citizens engaged in the planning process and not as warriors engaging in combat. May your peace moderate our emotions and our passions and control our speech and our conduct. Help us, O Lord, to speak the truth in love. And finally, O God, we are all profoundly grateful that by your grace we are citizens of these United States and we are able to respectfully participate in this great government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Amen.
Everyone turn to face the flag and put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioners Larry Berkey,
Here.
Jonathan Irvin,
Here.
Dana Haycock,
Here.
Dan Jacobs,
Here.
Raj Mali,
Here.
Vice Chair Sandy Smith,
Here.
Chairman James Bose, absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before our meeting begins this evening, Commissioner Jacobs has asked to make a statement.
Thank you. I would like to announce that I am the manager of the Antelope Valley Fairgrounds and an employee of the state of California, and Walmart has been a sponsor at the fairgrounds for a number of years. Therefore, I have taken the following steps. 1, I have discussed this matter with the City Attorney's Office. 2, I have discussed this matter with the Fair Political Practices Commission. And 3, I have also discussed this matter with the President of the Board of Directors of the Antelope Valley Fair. Based on these discussions, I have determined that no conflict of interest exists in this matter, and I believe there is no reason I cannot participate in these proceedings fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And at this time, I would like to ask Planning Director Brian Ludicky to make comments on the purpose of tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Acting Chairman Smith. Just to reiterate, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to allow people the opportunity to provide oral comments on the adequacy of the 2 draft environmental impact reports that are currently out for public review at the intersection of 60th Street West and Avenue L. Those comments can also be submitted this evening in writing if the applicant or the person speaking wishes to do so. The comment period on these draft EIRs continues following this meeting. It closes on the 23rd of February. So I would like to reiterate that anyone who wants to submit comments in written form has until the 23rd of February to do so. I will once again caution you that this is not a debate on the goodness or badness of the projects involved. It is simply an opportunity for the public to comment on whether they think the environmental impact reports as currently drafted are adequate. And certainly, Acting Chairman Smith, in your capacity, if you feel someone has strayed from that purpose in their discussion, you have the right to ask them to make that relevant to the environmental document. That's the only comment I have.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will have public business from the floor. If an individual is unable to stay through the entire meeting due to extenuating circumstances, a total of 10 minutes is provided at this time, during which input may be given regarding agenda items. Any person who would like to address the Planning Commission is requested to complete a speaker card for the recording secretary. Speaker cards are available at the rear of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 1 minute each. Do we have any cards?
We've had no one request early comment.
Okay.
We do have a number of cards, however, for comment under the public testimony portion.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, public testimony on the draft environmental impact report, the draft EIR. And I'm probably going to be repeating a few things that Director Ludicky said. Excuse me. This portion of the agenda allows members of the public to submit oral or written comments on the draft EIR. Comments must pertain directly to the adequacy of the content of the draft EIR only. Any person who would like to address the Planning Commission excuse me, is requested to complete a speaker card for the recording secretary. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Please be aware that the public may submit written comments on the draft EIR until the close of public comment period, which is February 23rd, 2009.
Jocelyn Swain, who is the Associate Planner Environmental for the city, will read the names of the individuals that we have so far.
Okay, thank you.
Neil Weisenberger.
Good evening. Some of you know me. My name is Neil Weisenberger. I teach at Antelope Valley College. I've been a past director at Antelope Valley Water, AVEC. My wife has taught at Quartz Hill High School for many years, and so I'm kind of familiar with that area. And I need my glasses. Let's see, as a longtime resident, I like to applaud the flood control mitigation measures discussed in the environmental impact report for this project. Avenue 60th and L intersection has always been a real interesting process trying to get through there on rainy days with all of the water and all of the flooding and all of the traffic that is going through there. And with these last rainy days, I'm sure it's really been great. By requiring the installation of a 1,300-foot, 60-inch storm drain, the project will significantly improve flood protection for local residents and enhance traffic and pedestrian safety during the periods of bad weather. I concur with the conclusion of the EIR that the proposed 60th and L commercial projects will actually provide local residents with better flood control protection than would normally exist if the property remained vacant. I'd like to commend the Commission, the planning staff, on a diligent effort on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Newton Shillette.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. As you said, my name is Newton Shillette, and I'm here to speak for Marvin Christ and the AV Sheriff's Booster Club. Marvin is the president and had a medical emergency this afternoon. I am a member of the board of the directors of the Sheriff's Booster Club, and he asked me to make this presentation on his behalf. Marvin is in support of the environmental impact report on the 60th and L Street project. As president of the Lancaster Sheriff's Boosters, it is my responsibility to advocate for the safety concerns of Lancaster residents. That's why I'm here in support of the EIR. Specifically, I commend the traffic safety mitigations contained in the EIR. The 60th and L intersection is currently a traffic fatality time bomb waiting to explode. There are no traffic controls. Students park on the dirt, walk across the roads, which vehicles are traveling at high rates of speed. By signalizing the ingress and egress at Quartz Hill High School and by widening streets to create turn lanes, the EIR will dramatically improve safety for both drivers and pedestrians. In addition, the project will generate millions of dollars of new revenue for Lancaster, which will pay for enhanced law enforcement and public safety services that will benefit West Side residents. I believe that this EIR represents a positive outcome for our entire community. I appreciate the hard work that the commissioners and city staff have put into this issue, and I'm proud to support the EIR. Thank you, Marvin and Chris.
Thank you.
Kevin Sanders.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Sanders, and I'm here to support the EIR. I live about a mile and a half from the intersection of 60th and L. I agree with the EIR's assessment that this project would actually result in fewer car trips and less pollution in our valley. Due to the lack of local shopping centers, West Lancaster residents have to drive a significant distance to shop or dine in Palmdale. Building a shopping center at 60th and L will enable residents to shop in a local neighborhood and reduce their vehicle trips. Locating shopping facilities near residential communities is a cornerstone of smart growth. I commend the EIR for recognizing this important principle. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Geraldine Godey.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Geraldine Godey, born and raised here. I live 1/2 mile from this development. I look out across that property and I think, what are we thinking? What are we thinking, people? With a high school on the corner? No, use a little bit of common sense here, and let's not build a Walmart or a Super Target. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind everyone that tonight's comments are strictly regarding the draft environmental impact report. We'll have an opportunity in a few weeks and a couple months to comment on the project itself. So thank you.
Doug Burgess.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Doug Burgess. As announced, I'm the President of the Courtsville Town Council, and I want to say I can say Jocelyn now. She was at our meeting and I couldn't say her name. Anyway, I have two grandsons in Jewel Walker High School, intermediate school. Each of them have 4.0 averages, and they've been that way for the last 6 years. And they're in 7th grade now, but it didn't come from Grandpa, trust me. Anyway, I'm writing this and presenting this based on the EIRs under review for the properties of 60th and L and the proposed commercial projects at the corner. I am speaking on behalf of the Courtsville Town Council regarding items that do not appear to be addressed on the EIR. The best I could tell, these items weren't. One very important item is that of the proliferation of the fast foods directly across the roadway from the Coatesville High School, and I'm addressing that from the standpoint of the obesity factor. The students will gravitate to these outlets at any given opportunity, off-campus breaks, after school, and even ditching school. That's an old Michigan firm. But anyway, school boards throughout the Antelope Valley have either removed or are in the process of removing fast foods and sodas from the schools. The concern is the obesity of children and young adults, and research indicates that this is either directly or indirectly the cause of many of our other medical problems of the growing children. And then I put a reference saying there's about 4 pages of reference stuff, so refer to that I've turned into you folks. It is very disturbing that the various school boards, public entities like yourself, the city councils, tend to completely disregard this problem. The onus is on all of us as city leaders, parents to protect and show guidance to our children. The issues of our children's health and welfare must supersede any monetary gain. And I say that because I don't think there's any opposition to say, hey, we shouldn't have those fast food vendors out there. And you know, if they've taken them all from the schools, where are those kids going to go? Bingo. Ooh, I better hurry up. Another issue is also the health-related is to the effect of respiratory and asthma incidents on the children as it relates to the increased close proximity of vehicular traffic related to the emissions. Not to exclude road debris that will be made airborne and greatly increase in the traffic flow. I understand they're going to do 17,000 more cars per day in that area. Students are constantly involved in outdoor activities next to this purpose. Proposed heavy vehicle traffic and will be unnecessarily exposed to its effects.
Okay, your 3 minutes are up, and I do invite you, Mr. Burgess, to submit the rest of your information in writing.
I have a paragraph and a half is about all.
Go ahead and finish your paragraph and a half.
And the opinions and concerns being stated by this council should not be construed in any way that we are against the commercial developments, and I want that understood strongly. Please don't put them next to our children's schools. The zoning should remain residential. Move the projects further west or north away from the schools. Lancaster, you're going to love this one. Lancaster, you annexed our schools and surrounding property. You have the assumed safeguarding of our children. Again, the onus on you to protect our children and citizens.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, we've had new people come into the room, and we have some people who are still waiting to speak. Tonight, we are speaking strictly on the draft environmental impact report and not about the project itself. We are not going to be making decisions tonight on any of this. We are here to hear testimony on the environmental impact report, and we'll be speaking more about the project in the coming months. So, thank you.
Lee Barron.
Good evening, Vice Chair Smith and Commissioners. My name is Lee Barron. I'm the President of the Quartzville Chamber of Commerce and the new owner of Rancho Rivera Almond Gifts. We are all opposed to this project, both projects. We have deep concerns over the water issue. Supposedly in District 10 there's enough water to suffice 100,000 gallons per day usage through both these developments, where housing developments, water's not available. There's a conflict of interest there. Also, the water runoff that was mentioned earlier, there's a 1,300-foot drainage line that will leach off into a holding bin that will not hold all the water that does generate from that intersection. It also will flow as a backup up towards down 60th to Avenue K, where there supposedly is an existing storm drain, but that existing storm drain does not come into effect until you get farther on down the road. So there's not adequate runoff there. The other thing is, in the EIR report, there is no mention on who's going to ensure the kids get across the street safely. You know, I hate to see one of you have to go to the funeral of the first kid that's hit. And this is very important that it is addressed. You know, I don't understand how this got to this point, how investors from outside this area that used to live in this area can come in, buy land, sell it, and not reinvest that money into our area. I know I'm off track, sorry.
Thank you.
But I did want to say that. My kids went to Quartzville High School. They graduated with good honors. 2 of them are in college right now. Quartzville High School has the highest level of students going on to schools, further education, I should say. When you drive around LA and you see the schools that are near commercial outlets, they have huge walls. They're going to an education system that's more like a prison. And our kids don't deserve that. We have children that left Quartzville High School and went on to Pensacola and Annapolis. How many schools do we have up here that happens? You know, we need to focus on education. We need to focus on our rural environment that is out there. This is West Lancaster. It is not Quartzville. It is not Quartzville Commons. as Doug mentioned earlier, you have the responsibility of taking care of these kids. So
And
take
I
care.
want to remind you, tonight is to focus on the
I understand.
environmental impact report. I
Okay,
appreciate
thank
it very much, Mr. Barron.
Mike Roberts.
I just have a few items that I dispute in the EIR. First, and these are quotes, the project would have less than significant impact with regard to visual character, and it will have no visual impact. It's a Walmart. What do you mean no impact? No visual impact? Maybe we're looking at different stores. What else do we have? By the year 2010, they project a 40% growth in housing. We might want to rethink that with the current economic conditions. There is no 40% growth. There's maybe... Okay, what else? It states in there that the jobs created would result in a beneficial impact. What, more minimum wage jobs is a beneficial impact? They don't spend money. These are kids making, what, $7 an hour? All right, what else do I have? They state in there there's going to be an additional 11,000 homes listed under that for housing impact. The EIR needs to be redrawn with the current economic. 11,000 additional houses. Most of them are in foreclosure now. Not most. I'm sure. There's a lot of it. They're not building out there anymore. Let's see. Quote, in the EIR, there is a need for increased parkland in Lancaster. And this is what our proposal is. We're going to build a Walmart when we need increased parkland, and it states that in the EIR. The closest park to the west side is Raleigh-Duntley by the college. Why don't we need parks out there. I'll let that one go. Okay. Traffic. States in the EIR, on the way that this Walmart is on the way to and from other destinations, and they will stop at the project as part of another trip. People don't whip into Walmart for their milk on their way like an AM/PM, which is right up the street. Walmart is a destination. You actually plan the day. It's like a Costco. You're not going to stop in to do your grocery shopping. You're going to go there specifically for that reason. 15 intersections will require signal lights in the area. And let's see, last but not least, the traffic count. The traffic count was taken on a Tuesday, August 28th. Middle of summer, no school traffic, Tuesday. It was also taken on a Saturday. On a Saturday, June 2nd, on a Saturday. How can they justify or accurately count traffic when it's in the middle of summer or it's on a Saturday? They need to be out there at 7 o'clock in the morning in maybe October and see what the traffic is. And last but not least, it states in the EIR the project will generate 17,000 daily trips. That project will generate 17,000 daily trips. And they're not even doing an accurate traffic count. Imagine what it would be if they did an accurate one. Thank you.
Stephen Walden.
Good evening, Madam Vice and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Stephen J. Walden, Master Sergeant retired United States Air Force. I'm up here tonight to oppose and refute the draft EIR on the following conditions. I've studied, I've researched, and reviewed your draft EIR. I have numerous questions and concerns of possible errors and omissions in the analysis and the data in this report. They're significant enough to affect the conclusion in this report and possibly influence the voting council. I'm going to go over just a mere 5 or 6 of them to get out of your way this evening. Number one, the high school impact. The effect that it will have on these high school kids has been mentioned numerous times this evening already. Number one being the fact that the children will migrate towards these commercial zonings, head out to the fast food restaurants, hang out in the stores, be around the increased possibilities of crime. The second, the traffic that was taken has been mentioned twice already. Need I not go into it any further? The traffic that we did an independent research and study of was on a Friday evening at 5 to 7:30 in the morning, in which 1,500 plus vehicles were trafficked, moved through the 60th Street and Avenue L in a 2-hour period. If we do take this draft EIR, we're going into it with skewed analysis and skewed data. I request gratefully that you guys please re-evaluate and do another analysis on this. The second is the water drainage problem, and it's been mentioned 2 or 3 times already this evening. The 1,300-foot drainage, 60-inch drainage pipe that's planned to go into this to help with the runoff is inadequate. It's going to go into a termination point that can't handle the effects of the increased water drainage problem. Something that hasn't been addressed this evening is the environmental emissions that are going to go in. Anytime a commercial shopping center, any type of commercial industry comes into an area that has no industry whatsoever in it, the emissions are bound to go up. In the draft EIR, it specifically states that there will be no significant impact. I refute that and wish to have this readdressed. Next, the water usage. Currently, this area of Lancaster and Quartz Hill are told that they cannot put residential homes in here because of the water issues. Now we're asking to put in commercial areas in here that's actually going to increase the amount of used water at that time. Finally, and my last point in the last 10 seconds that I have is that it states that there's going to be an increase in revenue. I'm sorry, but the people of Lancaster and Palmdale are not going to give you more money because you guys are moving out to 60th Street West and Avenue L. They're simply just going to move it from one side of the city to the other. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Michael Rosales.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Rosales, and I am a resident of Lancaster. I don't live by the site where the Walmart is going to be built, but I am opposed to the building it, and I'm going to address some of the issues. I do live by the Supercenter that is off of Valley Central and Avenue J. Public Service Police. Lancaster Station, according to the ERA, is approximately 6.5 miles from the site. Well, I live 5 miles from that site, and the police station, the sheriff's station, is about 3 to 4 miles from my house, which goes the opposite direction. 1 police officer per 833 citizens is considered adequate to meet the current demands for police service. Where did they come up with those figures? And with the growth that this community is enduring. Talking about that there would be very little increase of crime to the potential site because of the fact it's going to be a center, doesn't matter if it's a center or not. Crime, anytime you build an industry of any kind of sort of retail, it does attract, I'm sorry, but it does attract thieves. And it does attract people that will come in and steal and rob from these places. And in the environmental impact report, it does not state, it's not saying that it's going to increase it by much. It will. I live by the other one where we do experience that all the time. Average response time for emergency calls in the city of Lancaster for 2006 was 5.5 minutes. I'm sorry to say, but we're in 2009. I think our city has increased, and that response time could probably be a little bit longer. I think that needs to be reviewed by the study. We're building this retail property, this retail monster, or whatever what people want to call it. It's a retail store. It doesn't matter if it's what kind of retail store you're putting it across the street from the school. It will be servicing alcohol. It will have tobacco. They're claiming not to sell firearms, but they will have ammunition there if they choose to. These are things that the environmental impact has to take into consideration for the young people that do go to that school. It will attract them to those places to go hang out or even to have truancy there. So it will increase crime and it will increase other situations for that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Harris.
Good evening. My name is Paul Harris, and I'm a 21-year resident of the Antelope Valley, and I'm a proud parent of 3 young adults that have graduated from Quartz Hill High School. One that's brought a lot of recognition to our area. They say your children are your greatest investment in life, and that's why I strongly oppose the EIR draft. The major concerns regarding this draft are the following. Delineation of the market. It proposes over 840,000 square feet of new retail space, which is well beyond the normal range of 400,000 square feet. I ask you why. It goes on to state the cannibalization by anchor tenants who will be coming to these supercenters. Walmart, Lowe's, Target. This draft clearly states that they have taken this into account. Thus, this will eliminate sales at existing store locations in the proximity. This will cause urban blight and affect our environment. Correction to the EIR. The draft EIR states, under the project description, it is situated within the community of Quartz Hill. This is not true. This is Lancaster, California. Other major concerns. According to the draft EIR, you will not burden existing capacity of water. As previously stated by some of the other people in this room, I believe the residents of Lancaster are under a water rationing program. How can this be? I ask you. Long-term effects. You will impact the physical, aesthetic, and the human environment that we live in. This project definitely affects all 3 categories. Physical, we will no longer have the views within the area that I moved out here for. Incremental degradation of local and regional air quality. It states this in the EIR report. This is irreversible. There will be pollution. All of this for an estimated, as it shows in the EIR, from the Quartz Hill Commons project of $1.2 million. I ask you, is it worth $1.2 million annually to do this to our community? I think not. The draft EIR also states that there will be an increase in traffic volume noise. We have to live with this forever. What price justifies such an altering of our environment for tax-based revenues from the supercenter Quartz Hill Commons in Quartz Hill? Based on this, I urge all Planning Commission members here tonight and to reject the need for a zone change in the general plan amendment and add to this the Lane Ranch proposal too. Thank you for your time.
Loretta Berry.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here. I'm a 48-year resident of Lancaster, except for the time that I spent in the United States Air Force. So I graduated from Quartz Hill High School as well as my kids did. And first of all, I want to say that I feel that 45 weeks would not be enough time to list all the inadequacies in these 2 draft EIRs. First of all, the economic blight was not addressed at all. The city's economic plan for retail needs is based on mass housing tracts that are not going to be built, as was mentioned before. We're in an economic decline. We're not building all these housing tracts that are on the city's housing tract map. That's about 4 feet by 6 feet big. This map shows all the future houses, and this was done in the 1980s when there was a housing boom. Again, that's no longer true. The economic study is based on a false premise, and it needs to be readdressed in the environmental impact report. The economic blight in the valley is valley-wide. You can drive down any street in Lancaster and see empty storefront after empty storefront after empty storefront. It's I mean, I've got a list here. It's ridiculous. The city keeps building strip malls and shopping centers while ones that were built 5 years ago, even 3 and 2 years ago, stand empty. Avenue P and 30th, 6 empty storefronts. The west side of the valley cannot support 3 more, including the Avenue K proposed center. There's 6 empty storefronts in the Avenue P and 30th West Shopping Center. Avenue L and 45th Street West, there's 2 empty storefronts. Avenue L and 40th, 2 empty storefronts. Avenue L and 30th, 4 empty storefronts alone in the McDonald's strip mall that's there. That's not including the empty ones that are in the Stater Brothers Shopping Center right next door. Avenue L and 20th Street West, there's 4 more empty storefronts. Avenue N and 50th Street West, there's 2 empty storefronts. And as of late, there have been 6 restaurants that I know of, that I've read about in the Antelope Valley press, that have closed and have gone out of business. 3 near the Antelope Valley Mall, which is supposed to be booming. I mean, that's where people are supposed to go to shop, and stores are closing there. 3 of them have been open for less than a year and are now closed. Mervin's closed. Gottschalk's is closing one of their stores, moving to the other one. Circuit City left Lancaster a couple years ago, and now they're closing in Palmdale. And the list goes on and on. Avenue J on the east, 10th Street East and Avenue J just closed an Albertsons and a Rite Aid, less than 1 mile from the East Lancaster Super Walmart. Again, we cannot sustain these shopping centers on the west side. The $1.2 million of new tax revenue was already discussed. That's a fallacy. There will not be any new tax revenue. It'll be just redispersed tax revenue from the Walmarts, the 5 Walmarts that the Valley already has. They'll be now going to the west side. That was not in the environmental impact report. The traffic reports are inadequate, as mentioned. Child obesity was mentioned. Health risks from emissions was mentioned. It's not in the EIR that Quartz High School is a California State Distinguished School, and the impact on those students have not been addressed in the environmental impact report. Also, California is in a severe drought. I brought with me half a dozen newspaper articles from the last 2 weeks that says California is in a severe drought. LA just announced yesterday that they're going to Phase 3 water conservation rules. There's no water. This is a desert. That was not addressed it was addressed inadequately in the EIR report. Thank you.
And again, please keep in mind that the comments should be strictly about the environmental impact of this project.
Bob Leah.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have 2 subjects tonight I'd like to address. One that was in the environmental report, and one that was omitted that should have been in there in my judgment. My concerns about the commercial rezoning of 60th Street and L and 60th and K is where's the water going to come from? According to the 2005 water management plan for the Antelope Valley, we have enough water supplies to meet existing demands through 2030. A lot of things have happened in the last 4 years. I think we'll all agree, the building booms and so forth here in the valley, and I think that this report is out of date and should be reevaluated. Even if the report was true, then please tell me why Sundown Elementary School at 60th Street West and Avenue J is currently installing a water pump, not only to handle the convenience of the children, for their plumbing and so forth and so on, they have no water pressure. And if there's a fire, God forbid, I'd hate to have one of my kids out there. And one of the residents in the homes on 90th Street West and J, they're already having a significant water pressure problem. These people have to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning just to take a shower before the guy down the street does, or before sprinklers go off. That's ridiculous. And in the event of a wildfire out in that area, or God forbid a fire in one of these residential areas that's packed so tight, we're going to end up like that trailer park down below. It's going to be devastated. Where's the water pressure going to come from, the water for that? The Antelope Valley, it's obviously, we're in a drought right now, and the residents are being required to conserve. I think as long as this problem exists, there should be no residential or commercial buildings at all in the Antelope Valley. And one of the other subjects I'd like to hit on is, was not mentioned in the environmental report, was the jobs that I keep hearing about. I get sick to hear about politicians talking about all these jobs that's going to be created through all these big box stores and the news media. Well, the truth be known, 90% of those stores are part-time. Part-time, minimum wage. Minimum wage, it doesn't take an intellectual giant to figure the math on that. They're not going to buy no homes. They're not going to go and buy goods and services in their community. And the kids, where are they going to go when they graduate? Great, we're going to leave them a Walmart or some other big box store to go to work at. We're going to lose all of our children out here. They're going to be forced to leave. We're driving them out. What are we doing to keep them here with higher paying, better jobs, better communities? We're not. We're doing nothing. We're collecting money and from these big box stores and so on. And
I'm going to have to ask that you close your comments at this time, and anything else that you need to say, please do submit that in writing.
Okay. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Jessica Bernias.
Good evening, and thank you very much for giving me the time to speak with you today. My name is Jessica Bernias, and I've been a resident of Lancaster for approximately 20 years. I graduated from Quartz Hill High School in 1999. I'm currently a children's social worker with Department of Children and Family Services, so I work with our foster youth here in the city of Lancaster. One of the things that I wanted to address with you this evening is the omission of the EIR regarding truancy and crime with the children that attend the local schools of the proposed commercial site. In the sheriff's report for the last 6 months of 2008, we had 375 arrests by our truancy officers of our local high schools of children that are truant. And then this Sunday, we just had something in the newspaper of the importance of the revenue of our attendance of our children in school for the school district. With all the budget cuts that we're having, truancy is definitely an issue, and it was not addressed. Me going to Quartz Hill High School, I knew that if I tried to ditch, the only place that I could go was Burger King, and there was a sheriff there arresting everybody and giving tickets. My brother currently attends Quartz Hill High School, and his options are a little bit more broad as to where he can go. My brother's going to be there in about 3 years, and if that Walmart is there, I mean, you just can't control something like that. I work with our foster youth, and one of the biggest problems that I have with the children that I work with when they start hitting high school is those truancy tickets that they're getting, and then the theft. And when I talk to my kids, I can tell you from personal experience where they steal from and where they hang out at is Walmart. And the problem actually goes beyond that because, you know, there's mentioned there's not going to be firearms, you know, the tobacco, the alcohol, but these kids are stealing.
Make sure you keep it on the environmental impact report.
I mean, you've got the truancy issue. The truancy and then the crime rates as well that need to be addressed, and they do need to be taken into consideration.
Okay.
Okay. And I definitely believe that that's something that wasn't considered, and it definitely needs to be taken into account. Me and my husband just moved in. We just purchased a home a half a mile from these, and traffic. Traffic is another issue that needs to be addressed. You know, we've mentioned before, I went to school. I remember I got into like 2 or 3 car accidents going back and forth from school, and it's something that's not being looked at. We need to, once again, not just for our regular community and like the people, but our children. And I can speak from personal experience with a position that I have in our community. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Arms and alcohol are in it, by the way.
Bob Curry.
Good evening. I'd reviewed all three of the environmental impact reports and found a number of deficiencies, and all of them have submitted them by writing, but I'd like to focus just on the one that I think is the most pervasive, and that is the lack of supporting data for their urban decay conclusions. And this data, of course, depends on their outlook for population growth, the market demand for these stores. And there's not much data in the report at all about these topics, except that you can see when you look at the appendices that were supplied in the studies, the one for Walmart was dated October 2008. A lot of things have happened in the economy since then. The Lane Ranch one was dated October 07. The one from Lowe's, the last data was in 2006. You know, we've had the most severe change in the national economy in the last 6 months. These reports have no indication of that that we're looking at. So a person might say, well, you can never predict the future. You can never tell where the economic growth is going. But that's not a reasonable answer. Any engineer could tell you that in a period of uncertainty, the proposer would need to come in and say, sure, you can look at the rosy outlook that they have right now, but you should also look at moderate growth, slow growth. You should really look right now at severe recession for several years or a depression. And in those scenarios, the impact that you're going to see in this report is a whole lot different. You're going to see very likely, you're going to see underutilized capacity, you're going to see abandoned buildings, you're going to see what few jobs we have in town are going to get passed around from one store to the next. There aren't going to be any new ones. You're going to see infrastructure that we're building up right now that we don't need, but we're going to have to pay for years to come. These are the real impacts, and they are just over-ignored by every one of these reports because they're working on old data. And so you really can't possibly consider a rezoning decision when you're looking at data that's out of date and irrelevant. You may as well be looking at population data for Peoria, Iowa, or something like that. So all I would like to say is I think this is a severe deficiency, and all of the environmental impact reports doesn't just affect urban decay. It really plays into all of their arguments regarding traffic, noise, air quality, and really encourage you to, the only real solution to this would be for the EIRs to be rewritten by taking a serious look at a wide range of economic scenarios, not just the rosy picture that they've put in the one that they've presented. Thank you.
Richard Hecker.
Good evening.
I want to thank you, commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Richard Hecker. I'm with the Quartz Hill Cares organization, and I actually brought my copies of the environmental impact reports with me. I realize that tonight's meeting is about these draft reports, and I wanted to express that I find them inadequate. They're very large, difficult to go through. Loretta already mentioned that 45 weeks probably would not be enough time to completely analyze them. And if you compare just these two reports with, the size of the report on the 60th and K proposal, you see that the information is just amazing, and it's really difficult to go through. So with that thought in mind, I'm not going to run past my time this evening. I'm going to keep it very brief, but I wanted to promise you I'm going to write my concerns in a letter and submit the full length of it, because 3 minutes is just not adequate tonight to address all these things. As I stated, I believe these reports are flawed. One of the things I wanted to mention, the previous speaker talked about the rosy projections. One of the things I noticed in this report is it does not list the assumptions that were in hand when these professionals drew their conclusions. And without providing adequate data like that, or using old data, if they have flawed assumptions when they have these discussions, there's no way their conclusions can be valid. One of the specific things in the report that I just found appalling myself was on the comments at Quartz Hill on page 145 in talking about the issue of fire stations, I want to actually read 2 sentences for you. It said, "The fire department's current facilities plan includes a future fire station in the vicinity of Avenue K and 70th Street. However, the station is not currently funded for construction." Second sentence, "Therefore, the project site's proximity to its jurisdictional fire station is," and I'll emphasize this word, "inadequate and is considered a potentially significant impact." Here in the report clearly says it's inadequate. Like I said, I'm going to provide in writing, my full concerns, but I wanted to go on record and let you guys know I believe this report is flawed, and I would second the idea of starting from scratch.
Brad Misio.
Good evening. Thanks a lot for your time. The gentleman before me touched on everything I'm up here to touch on right now. That's the one thing that jumped off the page at me is the issue of fire life safety. And just to add on to what he said is the closest LA County Fire Department station is approximately 1.8 miles away, which does not meet their requirement for 1 mile for an engine company. And I'm a graduate of Palmdale High School, but I can't wait for my girls to go to Quartz Hill High School because I live right down the street, and I really oppose these EIRs. Thanks a lot.
Tammany Fields.
Good evening. I live at 60th and Columbia, and my children will, in essence, in the future be going to Quartz Hill High School. They presently go to Quartz Hill Elementary School, so they do have their time to get there. But I also refute many of the things in the EIR, and especially the safety issues that I didn't see in there. Children riding their bicycles, not just the high schoolers, but the junior high schoolers that would be traversing back and forth. I don't agree with the fact that they did the study in the summertime. In the last few days, I've sat and I've watched and I've observed, because I do live in such close proximity, the amount of cars that have gone back and forth, and at one point I counted in 2 hours 1,582 cars. That is insane, and what we're going to have is much, much more of that. My concern is Walmart allows campers in their parking lot. The EIR didn't discuss the safety of that kind of issue that could be potentially dangerous to children, both junior high, high school, elementary. It's a great concern for children to be able to know that they can go to and from the schools safely. It wasn't there. I would likely have my children possibly riding their bikes to school because of the close proximity, but at this point there would be no way in Helsinki that they would, for the fear of them being hit by cars, people not paying attention, which is a common practice. You see the car accidents that we presently have. I know that the county, from what I understand, is not willing to widen their section of the road, which then we have a meeting of the minds there that probably won't become an agreement. So I am asking you, based on many other people who have also seen inaccuracies and the economic obsolescence that this will cause the community, not just Quartz Hillians, but Lancastrians who go to different businesses, who own businesses in Quartz Hill, who make their living with their businesses. Those businesses would be decimated within 2 years. Please reconsider and think of everybody concerned. It's not just Lancaster's revenue, it's the people of Quartz Hill as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Amelia Jennings.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Amelia Jennings. I'm a resident of Lancaster. I live about 1 mile from this high school where they're going to put these 2 shopping centers across from the high school. I very much oppose this. I think your EIR has a lot of things in it that are not adequate, but actually the EIR kind of reminds me of the stimulus package. It's so big. I have 2 big issues. The first one has been touched upon already, and that is the water shortage. This issue has not been resolved in your EIR or even discussed enough. We've already been cut back on our water usage. Without more building in the city, we just can't afford any more building with the water shortage that we have. The second issue I have is on the traffic around the school. The traffic is going to be danger to all of our children there, but I think about this is where our young drivers are coming out of daily and how much danger they're going to be in. This also includes the children that are walking as well as the ones that are on their bicycles. So please reconsider all of these things before you make a decision and go back to the drawing board on this. It's just not good for our children to have all this there. Thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Paul Jennings.
Commissioners and staff, thank you for this opportunity to address you on this proposition, which I oppose. I have to admit that I haven't had the opportunity to read through all of these EIRs. They're just too much, too thick. I tried to do other commitments that I've already previously committed to. I wasn't able to obtain hard copies of these, so I tried to get it on the internet. That was a useless exercise. I tried for 2 days to try to get readable copies of this EIR, draft EIR, on the internet. I did get access to the EIR for the Avenue K and 60th project, and it has a lot of similarities. Looking at the summary of relative impacts, which is table 5.1 in that DEIR, the following conclusions were classified as significant and unavoidable, even after the recommended mitigation measures were implemented. Table 3.3 concerns traffic. Now, all of these that I'm fixing to talk about are under this significant and unavoidable category. Traffic impact 3.3-1 talked about the intersection traffic. Impact 3.3.2 talked about the roadway traffic being inadequate. Also, there's another page in page 3.5.15 that said within a 2-mile radius, all of the planned and pending projects within a 2-mile radius of this project would generate 89,000 daily traffic trips. I find that really amazing. The next item was noise. Impact 3.4.1 was noise during the project construction. 2 was during the project operation. The next was air quality. conflicted with the implementation of the air quality plan, generation during construction of criteria air pollutants, air pollution emissions due to project-related traffic, stationary sources, and on-site sources. And the last was visual quality due to the heavy lighting on the project. Since all of these problems affect the project at Avenue K and 60th of a significant and unavoidable manner, it's only reasonable to assume that these same negative impacts would also apply to the projects at L and West 60th. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Lansing.
Good evening. I'm going to talk about the draft environmental impact report and truancy. Truancy is not addressed at all in the draft environmental impact report, but it is a concern that many specifically requested to be included. Truancy will be a problem from both Joe Walker Junior High School and Courts Hill High School. Ask any student, parent, or sheriff, all agree building fast food and stores across the street from the school will increase truancy. The center will become a hangout for students attending sporting events and other activities outside school hours, bringing loud music, smoking of both kinds, drinking fights, and speeding to the residential neighborhood. Truancy will cost parents time off work to attend court, money to pay the truancy fines. Truancy will decrease federal fundings. On February 15, 2009, the AV Press reported that students attendance in critical to the district cash flow revenue. Schools are only paid when a child attends. The Westside School District has a daily average attendance rating of 95%, while Lancaster attendance rates are 92%. Each percentage point translates into approximately $1 million extra revenues for the district. That 3% difference means $3 million. Why is there a 3% difference? Are the students in the city of Lancaster sicker, or do they have more places to go within walking distance? Currently, Courts Hill High School and Joe Walker Junior High School have only one commercial store within walking distance, the AM/PM, on the corner of LA and 60th. They will only allow a limited number of students in the store at a time and none with backpacks to prevent shoplifting and other problems. It doesn't take much to tempt some students away from school. Placing two shopping centers directly across the street will be too much to resist. No other school in the Antelope Valley is surrounded by supersized commercial centers. Why has the draft environmental impact report failed to include truancy in its investigation? The school zone is not limited to only the school property. Rezoning to commercial will have a major effect on the school's environmental, and this should be addressed in the environmental impact.
Amber Goss.
Hi, I'm Amber Goss, graduating class of 2003 for Courts Hill High School. I'm here to talk to you about the obesity issue from fast food that wasn't discussed in the environmental impact report. The link between fast food and obesity is not addressed at the environmental draft impact report, but it is a quality of life issue for both students and parents surrounding the high school and junior highs with fast food will increase obesity. Students will stop at fast food establishments on their way to and from school. Parents have worked hard to provide students with healthy snacks and lunches. Vending machines are no longer stocked with junk food. But who has the willpower to eat healthy when you smell greasy fast food, when the smell of greasy fast food reminds you that it's just a step away? Many students who are not allowed to leave campus for lunch will sneak off and not bother to return from school. It is just as hard to sneak back on campus as it is to get off campus, being as a person who's experienced that, and I would stay off. Students waiting for a ride and a chance to get out of the weather or a place to meet with friends will hang out at fast food places. The temptation will always be there to eat just more one burger or cookie or just have 32 ounces more of Coke or cappuccino. The school zone is not limited to only school property. School zone warning signs, reduced speed limits are posted well beyond the school boundary. The schools nearby and across the street from the proposed commercial centers are major environmental elements in the neighborhood of Avenue L8 and 60th Street West. The draft environmental impact report needs to investigate all the effects of rezoning commercial into school zone will have on students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christina, and I can't pronounce your last name.
Hello.
So what is your last name?
CPAN.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me. I'm speaking as hopefully representing some of the parents out here. I'm a longtime resident. Actually, I was born in Lancaster, so I've been out here for almost 33 years. I've lived in Lancaster, Palmdale, Mojave, California City, Big Bear, you name it, I've lived there. And speaking with a lot of experience that I've had, I've lived on the east side of Palmdale before the Target and the Walmart were built out there. And if you want to only hear about the environmental issues, what higher rate of pollution caused by the emissions from the commercial buildings and the traffic do you think my daughter and I breathe in, or did breathe in, when we were taking our walks and going to the park? Obviously, it's a higher rate. I spent a long time saving money in order to go to the west side of Lancaster, because growing up here, that was the place to be. And I just bought property out there, and to hear that by chance you're going to develop out there is very unheartening to me, and I take it very personally because I spent a long time getting to the spot that I'm in right now. And I take my family out to do the park rides and the walks out on the west side of Lancaster now to get away from the smog and to get away from the cars and get away from all the pollution and the crime. And this is why I oppose the development. And just have one question. If this happens, where am I supposed to go now? Where am I supposed to take my daughter for a healthy walk on the street?
Janelle Smith.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity. I did go through the draft EIRs, and I'm not a civil engineer, but my son is, and he pointed out a few things. He said that the objective 18.2 to encourage appropriate infill development, this is not really infill development, that this is going out on the edge of an area. And along those lines, this will also take us to 145% for the total proposed supply of retail space by 2012. And that's if all the current housing projects go in, and they probably will not. This also allows 1,728 parking spaces. That's a lot of trips. I've had 3 children that have graduated from Quartz Hill High, and that area has never been safe for bike or foot traffic. Parking's always been an issue, and I know that's not Walmart's problem, but the kids are going to park there, the parents are going to park there, the kids are going to run across the street to be picked up, so that's a problem. It's going to be the same amount of retail jobs. The future urban blight, when Walmart closes stores, they just build new ones. Nothing ever gets done with the old ones. Forgive my voice, this makes me very nervous. And it also states that it would present a desirable image for the area. A 41-foot, 6-inch Walmart facade is not a desirable image. Thank you very much.
Bruce McPherson.
Good evening. I'm Bruce McPherson. I'm a Lancaster resident. I've lived in the Antelope Valley for over 31 years. I was born here, went to high school here. I'm also a licensed architect in the state of California. There's many concerns with the EIR, the draft EIR has been mentioned already. I have 3 that I think I could add a little bit to. The first one is relative to the transportation and traffic. The mitigation, there's a number of street widenings and traffic signals that are mitigation measures say need to be put in, which is very true. That's the case. However, the mitigation measure says the project applicant shall provide fair share contributions, which does not mean that the street widenings would go in or the traffic signals would go in prior to the occupancy of these stores, these developments. I believe that each one of the proposed developments would require the improvements that are listed in the EIR. Both together demand that those mitigation measures be installed, the street widening, the street improvements be installed prior to occupancy of these developments. That's a flaw in the mitigation measures and the results of that. The next item is under Public Service Police Protection. We have recent experiences in the city of Lancaster where shopping centers on the east side went in. Walmart was one of them, I believe, and they ended up requiring an extra police officer strictly funded by those stores to be provided for that area of the community. There's no reason why this development would not have the same type of requirement as some of the other folks have mentioned tonight. The incidents of crime will increase. The project should be required to fund a full-time extra police officer, a sheriff's officer, as well as full-time truancy officer for the related problems there. And then the final area, this strikes me as an architect, under land use compatibility, the EIR, draft EIR states the proposed structures are compatible with the surrounding 1 to 2-story residential and institutional buildings. That is not the case. They would not be compatible with the existing development or future development that's slated to go out there. Quartz Hill High School is a low-scale, actually rural high school. It's got a large gym building in the middle. However, its massing is definitely low scale. It builds up to a crescendo in the middle. The 1 and 2-story residential houses are definitely low scale. This type of building is a big box, and for it to properly fit into the character, it would need to be redesigned to have a smaller scale, also a smaller footprint, be broken up into smaller buildings in order to fit into the character of that area. That is a flaw in the EIR. Thank you.
Karen Smeltzer.
Hello, my name is Karen Smeltzer, Major USAR retired and former member of GABAR. That's the Association of Realtors in the Antelope Valley. One of the things that I tried very desperately to get the EIR off the computer so I could read it from cover to cover. However, it was very difficult to even find it. Plus the amount of volume that was in there, I really couldn't go through the whole thing, but I did not see in there where they mentioned too much the number of children that were going to be truant crossing the street by jaywalking. This is currently a problem, and they only mentioned the number of traffic lights that would be required, but no mention that there was going to be this constant traffic crossing in front of cars in all times of the day. Wednesdays especially are a problem because they get out of school. I believe I've seen children leave there as early as 11 o'clock and constantly see children truant in that area and wonder often why that's not more addressed in the first place. And having a Walmart across from the high school, to me, is a no-brainer. These kids are going to be over there. Are we going to have a full-time truant officer? Quartz Hill High School is the school I should have attended. I grew up in Quartz Hill for the most part, and I lived at L4, and my mother's house was just recently sold, and then she ended up dying. But I know that area very well, and that whole street there is a flooding nightmare, and I don't think that has been addressed. Is Walmart going to pick up the cost of widening that street clear down to 40th? I somehow doubt it. And that's really what it's going to take in order to make that halfway safe. Plus the fact that as a former member of GABAR, as a realtor, I always suggested to people buying homes in the area that they go to check the zoning on a property that was nearby, especially if it was vacant, because it would affect the values of their homes. There is no mention of that. The home values have already taken a huge hit. Those are all very expensive homes, and that is not, putting a new Walmart across the street is certainly going to make them even more of a problem. Plus the fact we have no water. I'm getting a water evaluation next week from Quartzville Water District because they're telling me I'm already using too much. Where are we going to get it from? There isn't any, folks.
Thank you.
Cleo Goss.
Can I ask one question very quickly before Ms. Voss, you come up here? A couple of people have mentioned that they're unable to download the EIR on their computer. Are there other ways to obtain that?
Anybody can call me at the city, and I do have CD copies that I've been handing out, and several people have come and gotten them, or they can be mailed to them. It was all the information was on the notice that was sent out.
Okay, great. I appreciate that because, again, for those of you who maybe have just come here, we are talking strictly about the actual documents, what's good, what's maybe not so good, strictly talking about the EIR, not about other parts of the project. You will have an opportunity in weeks to come to discuss the project itself, but tonight is the night that we are not making decisions. We are simply giving you an opportunity at the special meeting to give us feedback strictly on the document. But that's not to say that in the future you will not have a chance to talk about the truancy and other things that are on your mind regarding this project. So, thank you.
Can I just make a comment? I got a handout, and they said today was the day to make comments about all that. About safety of kids and over the kids.
I don't believe, and usually we don't conduct the meeting this way, but I will comment to that I do not believe that was something that the city sent out. That may have been sent out from a special interest group. I would, if you look at the city website and look at the materials that the city has sent out and the press releases that have been sent out by the city, it did indicate that tonight was all about commenting on the draft EIR, the effects of the environment. But again, you will have the opportunity in the future to address all your other concerns. We're not cutting it off here. Again, we're not making a decision tonight. We're just talking about these documents. So,
if somebody didn't get a copy of the draft EIR on the CD and wants it, see me afterwards, and I will make sure one is mailed out to you or make other arrangements to get it to you.
Is there going to be a chance to go for questions?
in the future, yes. And what we're asking is that you've spoken, but if you have other concerns, questions, I would implore you to write those down, get those in by the 23rd so they can be included when we...
I mean, that area shouldn't even have been in Lancaster. It was part of L.A. County Quartz Hill until it was annexed by Lancaster.
Okay, well, certainly you'll have your opportunity to talk about that in the future, but we would like to, we have a lot of people who would like to speak and do know it's a very controversial issue. I know it's very emotional, and we do appreciate you coming out here and talking about this document. Certainly, we want to keep the communication open, and again, we're not, but... Okay, but this is not the place. I'm sorry, ma'am. This is not the place to speak from the audience.
Only EIRs when I came here tonight.
Okay. I have stated that several times, but let me say that we do not speak from the audience. You have had your opportunity to speak, and I'm just trying to clarify that we are commenting on the EIR. So, Ms. Goss, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Please.
Let me just ask one quick question. When do you make a decision on the EIR?
That will be in the coming weeks. I do not have a date for you, sir. I am going to turn this over to Mr. Luedeke.
The issue on the projects themselves, there will be public hearings on the project applications themselves. Those cannot be conducted until the final EIRs in this case are in fact completed, which involves a response to all of the comments that have been provided. Staff believes that's going to be at least another 2 months.
Thank you.
Why was Walmart allowed to buy the property in the first place?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm going to have to ask that you please refrain from giving your comments or I will have you removed from the chambers. So, thank you. Please give respect to the next speaker. I appreciate it.
Okay, before I speak, I'd like to make a comment on your comment about truancy and the degradation of property values. Both of those are issues totally ignored in the draft EIR. I read it. It's not there. And I would like to ask Jacqueline, what
what day do we actually have to turn in our stuff? Is that on Monday? Do we have to the end of close of business or not?
They need to be in by the close of business on the 23rd. If something is postmarked by the 23rd, when it comes in, I will accept it.
Where can we turn it in?
It's turned into City Hall, fax it into City Hall, email it to me.
I've had a number of people telling me that they are having difficulties emailing to you.
Had they put the CA at the end of my email address?
I don't know about that.
That happens a lot of times. The CA gets left off and it bounces back.
All right.
So you can give them my phone number, have them call me, and we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right. Addressing the draft EIR, the traffic data used in the draft EIR does not represent true conditions. Instead of using an automated collection method, the data was collected manually. The National Data Survey and Services Company that was used to collect the traffic data doesn't even have a website. What kind of data collection company is this? The kind that can't even afford an automatic traffic counter. Now, data was only collected on 5 days for 2 hours at a time, throwing away one of the hours from each of the collection times. The days in which the data was collected represent 2 minimum school days in May during Memorial Week. 2 days in August just after school started, and 1 Saturday the day after school was out. Okay, the hours were also very carefully chosen. The AM time only covers the last half hour before school starts, missing much of the student drop-off traffic. The PM hours doesn't even cover the student time. They leave at 3, the hours were 4 to 6. It doesn't even cover the residents who get off at 5, majority of them, and takes an hour to get home. Traffic count is gone. And they call that peak traffic. Okay? Interestingly enough, the difference in traffic counts between the AM and the PM supposed peak hours, as in most cases, is less than 50 cars. Where are all these kids getting to school? Are they flying? Okay, remember, the school traffic time does not include school being let out. An independent manual count of the cars going in a single direction on Avenue L and 60th identified hundreds of more cars than the draft EIR calls it. This bad traffic data is then used again to model noise and pollution. If the data is garbage going in, it's going to be garbage coming out of the model. Okay? And there's problems with the noise calculations. They use a model that's 20 years old. All right? And interestingly enough, the air pollution quality data has an increase of cars versus the traffic. So, increased cars, you're going to have more air pollution. Interestingly, how that works out, cars disappear when you do air pollution, increase when you do air pollution, and they disappear when you go to count traffic. An automated traffic count of the true peak hours needs to be taken before the final environmental impact report, so that the same major flaws will not be represented in the final count and not passed on to the air quality and the noise.
Thank you.
Al Garcia.
Good evening. My name is Al Garcia, and unlike everybody else so far from what I've heard, I've only lived here since December of 2008. And I moved directly across the street. I'm on 59th and K-12, which is going to be directly across the street from where this project is coming on in. The little bit that I did get to read about the EIRs, I understand that K-12 is going to be extended. It's going to go directly into the shopping center. And I'm just wondering how that traffic coming into my community has been talked about, or how we impacted and affected, and if anybody has even considered it or talked about how that traffic will be coming into the community when K-12 is being extended directly on in there. Thank you.
Shelby Lynn Sanderson.
Hello and good evening to everyone. I'm Shelby Lynn Sanderson, your reigning Miss Quartzo. I've attended Quartzo High School for 4 years, but I'm currently a senior. I'm a proud resident of Quartzo for the past 16 years. I'm here to express this evening to express a few of my concerns on the potential rezoning of the property. As an ambassador for my community, I've had the privilege of becoming involved with my community. I've attended luncheons, business mixers, different chamber functions where I've developed personal relationships with the small business owners of my town. I feel in these hard economic times, we need to preserve our local businesses in my town. Alone, we have family-owned tire stores, beauty salons, candy shops, a pharmacy, feed stores, just to name a few. And I feel that by rezoning this property, it could possibly put those businesses out of business, basically. As a student at Quartzo High School, I'm concerned about the possible construction that may take place and the distractions that may occur with traffic, noise, and pollution. The traffic there is absolutely horrible. I don't even come to school till second period, and I have no place to park. So trust me, I would be one of those people to park in the Walmart parking lot. I'm also concerned about the dust and potential health issues that the thousands of students could be exposed to valley fever in the dirt. Currently, Quartzo High School is the leader in academic scores within the Antelope Valley, and I feel having a commercially zoned area across the street from my school may have a negative impact on our student learning, attendance, health, including tobacco and alcohol. We already have bad alcohol problems at our school. Kids bring it onto campus all the time. And the choice of food, because we have gotten rid of every horrible food that you could possibly think of. The noise with the construction that would be coming along with it, you'll be able to hear from Quartzo. And you definitely don't want to take away learning from students that could possibly be running the businesses out here. I mean, learning is huge, and with the noise, I mean, our classrooms are right next to where there would be construction, and you would hear it horribly. So I'm here tonight just asking you to take the youth into consideration when you're casting your vote, as we are the future of the Antelope Valley.
Thank you.
Diana Tirado.
Good evening. My name's Diana Tirado. I'm an Antelope Valleyan. I was born and raised here 40 years. And I guess I got my information messed up because I came to fight for Quartzo High School. Because I'm a parent of a junior at Quartzo High, and she has to leave the house, and we live right there on K and 50th, and she has to leave the house like at 6:55 in the morning to get to school, to find a parking and be there by 7:30.
And I know, I know that you feel passionate, and I do want to assure you that what you have to say to us is very, very important to us. It's important for us to hear. And I hate that you came all the way out here tonight to kind of talk about the impact, but I really do look forward to hearing what you have to say.
So I guess traffic would be one of the issues.
Yeah, okay.
So definitely traffic.
Okay.
And safety of the children, the crossing the streets, having public stores so close to the school, to me would just have, people being able to stock the high schoolers more easily. Right now there's empty fields, and you could always see somebody that doesn't belong in the area. And with public facilities there, I think it would be harder to decipher, people who are stalking our kids. It's all about the safety of our kids. So, sorry for taking up your time, but that's my point. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we take a short break? I think a couple of us would like to take a short break. Or do we?
Hold on one moment. We have one speaker's card remaining at this point. I would remind you that as a commission, you committed to be here until at least 8 o'clock.
Yes.
I would take this gentleman's testimony, and then because we don't have another speaker's card at this point, you can take a break. If there are some when you come back, then you can pick it up again.
Sounds like a good plan. Thank you.
Jose Arias.
Good evening, everyone. Just two things I wanted to talk about. The visual characteristics of the area that were mentioned in the environmental report. Pretty limited what they spoke about and how they take that into consideration. But one part that really stood out to me was that it states that the CEQA standards don't designate it as a state scenic highway. Therefore, it's not a big impact. I think that's kind of a ridiculous standard, and it needs to be elaborated, because just because we don't live on a scenic highway that's been designated by the state doesn't mean that people didn't buy homes in the area because of what it looked like. Okay? The other thing that I don't think I've seen addressed anywhere is, and it might be too late for this part of it, but the information distribution. The last thing I ever even heard of was that you only received mailers if you lived within some ridiculous short distance from the project sites. I think since this is supposedly something that the city of Lancaster is developing, proposing, considering, that those mailers, especially in the area, should have been expanded at least a couple of miles, at least as far as the environmental report states that it's considering having an impact. People in those residents should have received something. All I've ever heard is that it's just from the project site, a couple of 100 feet, those people were informed. I don't think that's very fair to...
I believe it's 500 feet, is that correct?
It was 500 feet for an automatic mailing, but for the past year and a half, anybody who has wanted to be on the mailing list could be added, and I sent out, beyond just the draft EIRs, over 750 notices to people who had requested to be on the distribution list.
750 is a couple of square blocks. Thank you for the effort, but...
No, actually, it went all the way into Lake Elizabeth.
Okay. Well, thank you, but I hadn't heard anything like that, because I do believe that more people would have showed up here and to other meetings if they were informed, especially the first one when this environmental report was first brought up at Quartz Hill High School. And the other thing is that I understand that we're talking about why we should have the project site here and the effects of the EIR are in the area, and everybody's concerned about the high school. We should also mention, if we were to build a high school, how about the reasons why we wouldn't build it next to Walmart and the mall? Okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, we will take a short break. We will reconvene at 6:45, so a 10-minute break. Thank you. meeting back to order. Okay, I think we have one more speaker. Richard Lewis.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to address this issue tonight. I understand that you are receiving comments strictly on the adequacy of the CEQA document. I'm not a CEQA planner, so I'll admit I don't know what's adequate and what isn't, but just in reading it, I do have some comments that are restricted to the public services sections of both the documents for both projects, section 4M. Page 4M7, the documents state that it is logical to anticipate that the crime rate in a given area will increase as the level of activity or population, along with the opportunities for crime, increases. It seems odd to me here that the document doesn't distinguish between types of activities. Certainly a large commercial center is going to create different sorts of crime opportunities than residential uses as the properties are currently zoned. Page 4M-8, regarding the CEQA finding of significant impact, there's a reference to service ratios and response times and the performance objectives of local law enforcement. And I want to say I have a great amount of confidence and gratitude to our local peace officers, and I don't question their ability to do their best to police whatever uses are applied to these tracts. However, do we really want to be thinking in terms of response times when it comes to our kids' safety? If there's a response time, that means a crime has happened, and that concerns me. Page 4M9 makes reference to an increased demand for police services coming out of this project, and that crimes against persons would be anticipated to increase with the increased level of activity. And again, I don't know if this is adequate, but to state persons here generally, I don't think is enough, because we're talking about a large number of minors, of children, in the adjacent school, and I don't think saying crimes against persons generally is sufficient. In section 4M10, mitigation measure 2-2 refers to crime prevention features. I really don't think we can talk about crime prevention as though all crime will be prevented. I think we can talk about crime reduction, but if you refer back to section 4M9, where it says that crimes against persons will be anticipated to increase. Moreover, I think that the public safety risks for our youth in the school as a result of the proposed commercial projects are unacceptable. I think this is why the project or these parcels are currently zoned residential, because it best meets the needs of the community and protects the safety of our kids. I'm not a CEQA planner, but my understanding is that because this project would require a zoning change, that it is a discretionary matter for the Commission and for the Council, irrespective of the adequacy of the CEQA document. So I ask on both levels, as you address CEQA, in a matter of public safety and at your discretion under the zoning change, that you please deny this project.
Thank you. Patricia Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I lived in Valley since 1990. I moved here. And over those years, I've seen this valley change tremendously. Okay, and I recently, in the last 2 years, I moved to the west side specifically to get away from changes that I saw that came in with the Walmarts that they brought to the east side of Lancaster, and all the things that came along with that. Many homeowners, as well as myself, purchased homes in this area to escape the urban city environment. Now these proposals are, you're bringing in to change the entire character of the neighborhood. We didn't invest the amounts of money that we did to move out in this area to have it impacted by commercial businesses and the things that come along with that. I'm just really disappointed in the city. I think that it's to the point where we have no neighborhood within Lancaster that is just going to be exclusively a neighborhood.
Thank you. So we did promise to be here until 8 o'clock, so whether people are going to speak or not, we do want to extend the courtesy of letting people who may be coming in from the Valley or LA to come in here and speak on this subject too. So I don't really know. It's kind of a unique situation, so I think we just kind of go into a type of recess until we...
That would
I certainly don't think you want me to start singing for you on an intermission, so...
You want to do another 3 minutes?
No, once they've spoken, that's their opportunity.
An hour to kill, give us each another 3 minutes. What's the worst that could happen?
You can just start writing your comments now, though, and plenty of time to do that. So we will... Mr. Ludicky, you think that perhaps just a recess until we gather more cards?
I would say that's appropriate, and, as you've stated, we, the commission staff, promise to be here until 8 o'clock to accommodate any comments that may come in, and ought to adhere to that.
Could we go ahead and request from Ms. Gosselin the CDs if need be? Would this be a good time for that?
I have a list. You can add your name to it, and I can go to my office and burn them if my computer's going to behave. So let me know who wants them, and I will go attempt to burn them now.
Vice chairs, can we ask questions? I mean, it's just...
No, because we're really not making decisions tonight, and...
It was more, what's the next procedure, okay?
I will let Mr. Ludicky answer that. Sure.
Once we have received all of the comments on the draft EIRs, and as we said, that comment period closes on the 23rd of February. It will be the responsibility of the city to take all of the comments that have been provided, either written or oral, and provide responses to those. That information will have to go into the creation of what's known as a final environmental impact report. That document has to be prepared prior to any consideration by the Planning Commission of the projects that have been applied for. As I indicated earlier, we don't have an exact time for that. We estimate that it will take approximately 2 months.
Was tonight's meeting recorded, so that all the verbal concerns are now documented somewhere?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes.
I'm keeping this informal, I'm not...
Yeah.
Final review or final draft of EIR, will there be another public, or is that a final draft and it's just whatever comes out of that is what it is?
The final EIR is what the city's final position on it is, at least from a staff standpoint. People still have the opportunity to comment on the final EIR at the time of the public hearings on the projects, but there's not another formal process for reviewing, kind of an interim draft EIR.
Thank you.
Would any future public comments, though, help make a decision on that final draft?
At the time, the next hearing opportunity is going to be on the projects themselves, and that's critical because comments that probably weren't that appropriate to the EIR would be something that the Commission can consider and weigh in terms of trying to make a decision on the projects themselves. The final EIR and the information contained within those documents are actually part of that information that the Commission has to consider as part of its deliberation on the projects, as well as any public testimony that comes in.
Will the changes in the EIR regarding comments made tonight, if they were legitimate, will they be highlighted as the final EIR so that you can see, oh, they did change this? Or
In the final EIR, actually what it is the draft EIR with any changes we make to that draft and redline strikeout.
Okay.
Plus, there'll be copies of the transcript made tonight and any written comment letters I received. Those are all scanned in. We bracket each of the comments. So if your letter has 20 comments, comment letter 2, comment 1, and we respond to each one of those in writing, and that's part of the final EIR.
And if we receive the draft EIR on CD form from you, which I did, I will also receive the final.
I can do that.
Would you?
Yes.
Sign up for it, or?
No, I can have anybody who submits comments on the draft EIR if I have your mailing address. So if you speak tonight, make sure your mailing address is on the card. Yes. And if you submit them in writing, I already have your mailing address. I will send copies on CD of the final EIR to everybody who provided comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Two questions for you real quick.
Can I right here? I just want to make sure, I want to check with our city attorney if this is something that should be going on at this point, or should we?
Yeah, it's fine. It may be more appropriate and possibly more convenient for the people who have questions to simply go into recess, and if they would like to ask staff questions while we're in recess, that would be fine.
Why don't we do that?
I do have a question for you. Walmart collected several thousand signatures from various residents throughout the entire Antelope Valley, including LA, Little Rock. And did they submit those, and is that part of the EIR responses?
I have not received anything along those lines, and that typically would not be something submitted on an EIR.
Vice Chair Smith? Vice Chair Smith, just to clarify, are we in... Did I catch you at a bad time?
I'm for Twix. Sorry.
I'll ask the question slowly. Are we in recess now? I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm eating.
Thank you.
bank, daycare center, or the insurance company.
This afternoon, she said, I've seen you 2 days in a row, and I dropped her off the list. She said, that's that was Chief It's not just for Hill, this is countrywide. There's a lot of maps that was based on the maps that and so these other things are screwed up. What's going to happen? Let's say half the property now is my worst. I go from you remember you had those auto, Don Williams auto? Okay. A building went up next to him. They said, historic building, good size. The corner, you stand is like 3 feet. Well, if you read the EIR, the farms over time is not so I don't know if you're using that. They should make a park, community gardens, leave the barn area, and just preserve it.
I was going to suggest this to Jocelyn. She's been gone for a while. They asked about inability to access the documents on the website. A simple suggestion. What do the kind of guys find out? Could they just reorganize these particular documents and put a direct link straight to the document? I suspect kind of what's happening is I'm on our website, and you click this link, it goes to the document. And they have to click planning and all these things. Then you got to click this. And I would just move out of those steps or so on. It's very easy on a computer. All you have to do is put files in a very specific place, and then you have a direct link that goes straight to that document. If a person clicks on it, Adobe opens it, and they've got it. People may be getting lost because, they're having to go through that hierarchy. Just a simple suggestion.
Okay, we will call the meeting back to order. We have received a speaker card and are expecting perhaps a couple of others, so we are back in session.
Michael Thacker.
Good evening. I didn't realize I'd be the first one to speak after your break here, but my main concerns are with the high school. And I know that the environmental impact report does not seem to specifically mention the impact of safety. As far as I could, it's a large environmental impact report. But the safety of the students at Courtsville High School should be paramount. And I don't think it is. And I don't see it mentioned in the environmental impact report as to the effects that this project would have on the safety of the students. In addition, there's no reference to the traffic flow on 65th Street and L8. There's no mention of putting in a light at 65th Street and L8, which I know would be, impacted a lot. Runoff, I'm not sure. They mentioned that they had paid for part of the catch basin. I don't know what catch basin they paid for. I'd like to know. I'm specifically in the environmental impact report. I live on that side, and if you've been down 60th Street in a major storm, you know that the amount of runoff is extreme. I don't see any response from LA County Water Department as to I see letters from the Edison, I see letters from other agencies, but nothing from LA County Water as far as whether they'll be able to serve this project if we have enough water available. Edison, in their letter, say they don't have enough information to even say that there will be enough electricity for the project. Per se, I'm not, I don't object to having a large shopping center on the west side. I think that's a good idea. Eventually, we need something over there eventually. But my concern, my fifth daughter is beginning her 9th grade year next year, and I believe it is a California Distinguished School, and I do believe that this will definitely have an impact on the school. And anybody who denies that and doesn't understand that, in my opinion, has ulterior motives, profit mainly. And understanding how much land is on the west side is, really ridiculous to put 2 super centers over there, and not to say that it doesn't have any impact on the environment of the children. I don't see anything in the report about the effect on the kids. It's ridiculous, absurd.
Thank you for your
Please look for somewhere else to put your super center.
And for those of you who may have come in recently, I apologize to those of you who have been here the whole evening and get to hear this again, but tonight the comments are strictly about the draft environmental impact reports, the content of the reports, and you will have an opportunity in future weeks to comment on the project itself. But tonight we're not making any decisions, and just make sure you kind of keep your comments on the actual report. Thank you.
Bruce Hailstone.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Bruce B. Hailstone, real estate broker. I operate business out of 5008 West Avenue L, which is the intersection 1 mile due east of the proposed project. I've been located at that location for some 15 plus years, and I'm here to state that the environmental impact report, I think, insufficiently addresses the traffic issue, and I know you've heard a lot about traffic issues earlier this evening. but that corridor being two single lanes and one single lane in each direction is horrendous. We average approximately a severe accident, fender bender of some sort on a weekly basis already at that intersection, and it's largely because of the children exiting and coming out of school, because that's obviously the peak traffic hour, both in the morning and again in the afternoon. The development of this kind of project obviously is going to substantially impact that entire Avenue L corridor. I realize that that's someday going to be further developed and those streets widened, but anytime in the near future, the impact is not just the immediate area in and around the 60th Street West and Avenue L location where these entities are planning on residing. We obviously are going to have a horrendous problem down the entire Avenue L corridor that currently is still two-lane, one each way, up to 40th Street West. So we're actually dealing with a 2-mile stretch of highway that needs some serious attention if any of these projects are approved in that general area. The concept of flood control, I mean, I of all people are really familiar with what that problem is down there, and even though the water is flowing down through our area, there is a substantial amount that is coming down through that 50th to 60th corridor area, and it's heading north, but it's still a substantial problem. I think additional development along 60th, because my 3 children all went to Quartz Hill High School, is we recognize that that entire area needs to be addressed and dealt with some of the flood control problem that Quartz Hill is already experiencing. The connection right now just down 50th Street West is still a problem, makes a 90-degree turn at L and 50th, again continuing north down 52nd-ish. But that entire corridor is a mess, and that needs to be addressed severely as a condition of any kind of development. Personally, I think the development of any kind of super center or anything large, our forefathers saw the wisdom in zoning that area residential for the benefit of the high school. I think it would be irresponsible of our government to make any other kind of decision to allow any kind of substantial commercial development in that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other cards at this point.
Well, we just got 10 more minutes, and we'll, I guess, just kind of hang around, right?
travel to Africa with us.
It looks like we have another speaker.
Oh, goodness gracious. There's 300 outside.
You know, it crossed my mind.
David. Okay. David Gasper.
Hi, Mr. Ludicky. My name is Dave Gasper, and I live in Quartz Hill, 4855 West Avenue N. And I've heard a lot of reports, and I've attempted to access the environmental impact report that was presented, but I couldn't do it today. I've had a couple of thoughts. I actually do live in Quartz Hill, not very close to the proposed development, but still I'm a Quartz Hill resident. And I have one concern, or several concerns. One is we're going to put this proposed shopping center that's going to consume an awful lot of water. And we don't seem to have, we seem to have a lot of problems with the fact that we don't have enough water here in the valley right now. And that would, I would presume, be a problem. Because if the shopping centers go in individually or collectively, where are we going to get that water that we're now going to be using? Although it's not part of the environmental impact report, do we really need 5 Walmarts in this valley? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other speaker cards? All right, we will move on at this point to director's announcements. Mr. Ludicky, do you have any announcements?
My only announcement is that given the fact that it appears all speakers have been accommodated this evening, we will not reconvene tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Commission agenda. Any commissioners have any comments? Okay. I'm going to sit out the next 2 minutes then. We made a promise. Okay, no other speaker cards? She's filling out a card. We have more. Looks like we have one more.
You know, if we cut it off early, it'd be in the press.
Okay, we do have another speaker. You can remain up here if you'd like.
Lee Simmons.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I live in the 52nd and Avenue L, and I know that area is take me a long time to. I have to take my kids. I have 2 kids in the Court Hill High, and take me just from my house to Court Hill High. I have to the traffic part. I have to take a while to go there because I cannot go straight from Avenue L. But anyway, the main thing I'm talking about is I'm very concerned about if you put the Walmarts in, the crime will follow in. Because once you have store, you're going to have the bank. Once you have store business coming, what is it called? The bank will be closed too, and I'm sorry. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is the Walmart will be not the only one coming. Supermarket, Target will be not the only one there. You will possible have another store coming in. Possible with gun shop, the shop, and possible will be have cheap cigarette. Possible gonna have liquor stores coming. Possible have in the future. Possible have some nightclub coming. Once you rezoning is the commercial zone. Any store you can come in. All the store coming in, you are bringing the crime, bring the different kind of people in. So if you put the kids, 3,000, 4,000 kids, surrounded by that kind of environments, it kind of multiple. And besides the course here, we also have the Sandiang Elementary School on the north side. We also have the Joe Walker on the south side of the future Target Shopping Center. So it's not just Court Hill affected. Also Sandiang Elementary School, Joe Walker Elementary School also will be surrounding that new store coming in. So we are not, I know we're talking about Court Hill High. But it's not just Court Hill High. We're talking about small kids, elementary school, middle school, and high school. And those other stores bringing in from the Walmart, from the Target, it will be multiple. And we have to concern about the future of our kids.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, seeing no other speaker cards, thank you for joining us tonight. This meeting is adjourned.